Okay guys, so in this video we're going to show you how to mesh a vehicle in the sort of way that you'll see. I'll get up this image here. So you see this type of mesh that's commonly used. So there's certain software out there. It's called ANSYS, and it's very good for meshing automotive vehicles like this, and it can get very good meshes very close to the vehicle, very efficient use of the cells. So how do we do something like this in ANSYS? That's what we're going to look at today. So you can see there's a very fine layer of cells very close to the vehicle and between the ground. Then there's a less finer one outside, then it gets coarser as you move out. So we want to be able to create these layers without having to use, I've shown you in a previous video how to just use sort of boxes, okay? And the boxes are fine as well. There's nothing wrong with the boxes. They're maybe just, they're not as cell efficient, there's probably extra cells there that don't need to be there. And this as well, see the wake has to be made so that you're able to resolve that. That could have maybe even been a bit longer. Grand. Okay, so we'll go back to SpaceClaim. Okay. So what we'll do is we'll then import, so just create a project, save it in Workbench, drag in a geometry block, and then import the geometry. So I created in a previous video there a VW van, so we're going to look at that here. So import that and then click edit in SpaceClaim. Grand. So one thing I've added as well to this VW van, so I've shown you how to sort of take an online STL file and convert it into a easily meshed, airtight or watertight CAD model suitable for CFD. And I explained that you can add other little features afterwards to it. So like I'll show you here on the bottom of the vehicle, I've added a front spoiler and also a rear wheel deflector, just to kind of improve maybe the underside flow, not maybe, and it'll also help the convergence on the RAN simulations. You see there, I drew that in SolidWorks afterwards and added it. And the same here, drew them, and you can see I have these as separate bodies. I could just combine them all in SolidWorks if I wanted, but sometimes it can be advantageous to have them separated out like this. Okay, grand. So I'll just save that project. So you see all the different bodies here. So it starts off pretty much the same as before. So what you'll do is create a plane there, create a plane here, and then move that bottom plane up 5 mil so it's not tangent with the wheels. Okay. Right, so you want to then obviously produce your enclosure. I'm not going to spend too much time working on the enclosure. Yeah, that's grand. So you can size it according to whatever. I'll show you one cool way you can measure the size of the enclosure. So if you change all of this to 1 mil, this to 1 mil, everything to 1 mil everywhere around. Okay, and then click save on that. So then you get your measure tool, and then you can just basically read off the length of your vehicle. If you know you want to be 4 lengths in front, whatever. So I'll just record those here so I can size my domain accordingly. So you want your domain to be kind of on the big side as well. The bigger the better. Particularly you want that blockage ratio as well to be about 1%, 1.5%. You don't want to be going maybe above 2% with your blockage ratio in CFD. You can read papers online about that. Grand, 1940. Okay, so that's grand. So we'll go in front here. I'll go maybe the length of the vehicle, which is about 5,000 times 4. The rear of the vehicle, 5,000 times 12. Sure, that'll do. And then here, the height was about, we say 225. And I'll multiply that by 5. Give it a good bit of space. And same here, 255 by 5. That's grand. I'll throw that out the other side, even though I'll be splitting it in a second. I'll do. No. So there's my enclosure. And then you can then, if you want, trim it down at this point. Doesn't matter. Okay. Split that. And we don't need the original bodies anymore because they're sort of saved up in the enclosure. So I'm going to just get rid of that now. So we'd be creating bodies of influences now. So I'm going to just close off the enclosure there for a minute and focus on the bodies of influences. Okay guys, so we're going to do an updated
method of producing um, sort of body of influences around the vehicle like this. So you can see there's 5 layers and they all sort of match the shape of the vehicle. So you can see the very fine layer there, and it gets a little coarser as you move out. So how do we sort of produce these effectively in SpaceClaim? So let's have a look at that now. So what you'd have is you'd have your model kind of all brought in like this. Um, so I've shown in previous videos how to do this. So you can just, I'll hide these for the minute. So the only extra maybe BOI that you want to have before maybe doing this is, have something like, say I have one there for the mirror. And if there's any other features on the vehicle you want to have a specific BOI around, you can sort of put that in before this, but it doesn't matter, put it in after. Okay, so what you want to do is load in, so go to assembly here and then click all supported files and load back in um, load in the SolidWorks file for this here. So it'll sit perfectly on top of this because it would have been loaded in at the beginning. So that assembly there is a very useful place to load in the files. So I'll give that a second. Okay, so that's loaded in, so you can just press escape there. So there it is, and it's a few different bodies. So you can see there how the vehicle is separated. So I noticed the wheels are missing on this. So let me go and get the wheels put in, so I'll be back in a second. Okay, so that's all loaded in properly. I must have suppressed the wheels on the model in SolidWorks, so I unsuppressed them there. Anyways, so the idea here is now the main tool you'll be using here is you go to facets and we'll be using the shell command. So the first layer this really fine layer outside the vehicle. So you select all the bodies here and you click shell and then you click outside and don't keep the original bodies and do 50 millimeters. And this will create a shell perfectly sort of matching the shape of the vehicle sort of off the surface by 50 mil. And this will be a sort of it'll be a surface that will be created here. So we're going to convert that surface into a solid body, like our other body of influences. So this can sometimes take a while depending on the sort of the geometry you're using. So it can be temperamental. One thing to mention as well, the bigger you make this size sometimes, the more difficult it is for it to produce it. So if you were to like try and do a 500 mil version of this, it'd probably crash it. So keep things small, definitely at the very beginning anyways, for the first shell. And you'll see in a sec, the shells that we create will be doing another shell outside of that shell, so we won't be working with the original vehicle. Hence, we didn't click keep original bodies. So yeah, you see that made there. And as well too, don't be worried about this here. So you see an example of that there, that says it as an error. So one thing as well you want to watch, so you see how my wheel wells aren't fully covered here, and I would want them to be fully covered. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cancel that, and I'm going to make the wheels, I'll make the wheels here. I'm going to do a separate one, close that, where I have the wheels 125 millimeters shelled, and then I have the rest of the vehicle just 50 millimeters. So I'll pause this and do that. Okay, so great stuff. So you see there that I made the wheels a little bit bigger, 125 mil, and kept everything else 50 mil. So I've kind of covered up the wheel well there, which is what I wanted. Now, so this is what's really important once that's done. You want to go over here. So you see there's sometimes an error on the shell, this sort of surface facet thing you made, but that doesn't matter. So what we're going to do is we're going to select everything, and we'll just create a shrink wrap over it all. And what's really important is to keep this quite big. So keep the facets quite big. So 50 mil is usually quite good for a full vehicle. So we'll let that work away there. So you see you got something like this. And that's what you want. We're going to be converting this into a solid body. So you want it to be kind of clunky like this. So just making sure as well there's nothing like super sharp. So just looking at this here, that's not ideal. So I might reduce that to maybe 45 mil to see if it can keep a little bit more on that. But you do want to keep this gap size quite big. So let's have a look here. So yeah, that's a bit better there. So I'm going to go over here now to tools and then click auto skin, and so automatically create a skin on that. So this shouldn't take too long. It says 106 patches. Now, so you'll have, sometimes this happens and you don't get like, there'll be a part of it that it wasn't able to make, but that's grand. All you got to do then is come over to repair and then click missing faces and it'll just add a missing face there. And then if this doesn't work, what you could do is you just change the, yeah, so like for example here, it's not happy with it. So what I'll do is see the way it added the face, it didn't add it properly. So you can just go back to say here, go back to this point here, and then, you know, keep changing the gap size and it'll change what that'll look like. So if I click 55 there, so you see again, that looks kind of what I want. So the only issue is that there, but that should be okay. So if I want to maybe just try and smooth that. So you can click your facets here and you can click smooth. That'll just reduce the peak on that. Okay, clear that. So go to Tools, Auto Skin, and apply a skin to that. So yeah, so that was able to skin there. So you just want to make sure as well that everything is kind of smooth there. So like, you know, I'm just giving a quick run through this. So you want to get this kind of as best as possible, smooth the shell. And then you can also go over here to the sort of repair and make sure that, you know, there's no small faces on this. And then as well that there's no kind of bad faces. And then short edges and sharp edges. And then if all that's good, then you can just go and push on to the next step. Grant, so I'll just pause this here. Now, okay, so that's done there. And again, make sure to save things as you move along. So I just redone that there. What I actually done was I went back and wrapped it at 49 millimeters and it had a bit of a cleaner mirror and a bit of a cleaner vortex generator here at the back. So there's your patch body, and you can see that there'll be a leftover shrink body. So you can just delete that. That's not needed. And so what we're going to do again is we're going to use the facets to the shell tool to create another layer out of this. So that was a 50 mil layer. So now we're going to go to a 100 mil layer out of this. And what's really important is to click keep original bodies. Okay, so I'll click 100 on that. And then generate that. So that again can take like a minute or two. So I'll pause this. Cool, so that's done there. So again, click the facets body, click the shrink wrap, then the 50 millimeters, and then let that work itself there. It should only take a second. Lovely stuff. So you see it's getting smoother now, it's getting easier. And then you just go over to your tools again, auto skin, and the number of patches here will be easier. See, it's getting, the patches are getting a little bit easier to make because of the shape. And then delete that shrink wrap and sort of do it again. So I'm going to do this again now with a 150 mil layer out of this and then a 200 mil layer outside of that. So that'll give me a total of 500 millimeters outside of the original vehicle. So I'll pause now and do that. Okay guys, now that that's done, you have your 50, 100, 150 and 200 mil thing. You want to turn on your symmetry plane and your ground plane and then split these guys. So go to design and then split body and start breaking away the layers, because we're doing it now. If you were doing like a crosswind or something like that and you wanted to model the full vehicle, by all means, but we're doing this sort of fine layering so that we can run a hybrid LES simulation. So to save on the cell count, we're only modeling half the vehicle, so deleting this stuff away here like such. And same as well too with the bits on the bottom. So I'll just pause the video now and cut them out. Okay, lovely. So you see that's all done there. So now what you want to do is start labeling these up. So the very inner one, the very fine one, so I like to call that one BOI near very fine. The one just out of it then is BOI near fine. The one out of that then is BOI near med fine. And then BOI near coarse. Okay, so I want to create one more layer outside of this then, so I'll just save that. So the way we're going to do the last layer then will be a 1,000 millimeters outside of this sort of, they add up to 500 mil, so that then covers your vehicle pretty well. So just that last 1,000 mil. It's up to you. You can make it 800 mil depending on how you're restricted, ram wise and whatnot. So best way to do this is to come in here from the side, maybe turn on the symmetry plane there, yeah, and then just sort of draw a shape outside of this. So you could even select the outer edges there and then use this offset tool. So I'm just going to draw that now, 1,000 mil. So I'll be back in a sec. Cool. So that's about 1,000 mil outside everyone there. You can draw it whatever way you want. It doesn't matter. So then go return to 3D. Grab this and then click no merge. And then we look in from the front here. So what I like to do with this is I like to come out to about there. Press space, so that's 1480, and then add on 1,000 mil, so you're 1,000 mil out that side then as well. And what you could do then as well is, if you wanted, you could go then and take a little bit off the corner there in the top right, but it's up to you. So like for example, up here, if you wanted to try and fillet some of these edges, let's see if it works. So yeah, you can see you can take a little bit off there. It's all saving cells, where they're not needed. So for example, now when we look in from the side, you see it maybe matches the vehicle a little bit better, and you're having the 1,000 mil. But anyways, that layer out there, will have quite a big cell in that, so it won't matter. Cool. So I'll go without the radius there. So I'll save that. So now we're going to put in some sort of behind the vehicle bodies of influences. And just as well, that layer there is called BOI very coarse. So you can just drag that into the vehicle here. Rename that. BOI very coarse. So they're the 5 layers outside the vehicle. So now what I like to do is come in here, look at the vehicle, and so then do a sketch, get the rectangle. Okay, so what I do is I draw from this region here, the near fine region, and I draw a rectangle that will go from where its wake will be, so anywhere maybe about there isn't bad. I actually grab it through the vortex generators thing there. So if I go up here and then shoot across maybe about there, that's not bad. Now, so what you want to do then is you want to have that down to the ground, and then you want to have this about thing away from the vehicle. So you can see there, I went a little too far there. So I only want this to be about 1250. So the way to do this is to smart dimension or dimension this from there, fix that, then measure what this is to here. So that's that, and I want that to be 1250. So you can see, maybe if I take 200 mil off it, I have it. So whatever this dimension is here, 5775 minus 200. So then now if you were to look at this here, you see you're getting around the 1250 mark, which is good enough. Okay, so I might actually add on maybe another 20 mil to that. 5595. Cool. Okay, so then you want to grab this here, click no merge, look in from the side here, and then drag that out into, so it should have the same height and same width as the vehicle, so anywhere around there. So 1150 is grand. Yeah, that's lovely. Okay, so that then, we'll name that in a second, so I'll just draw the rest of them in. So then you want to draw another one like that, coming off its same height. Grab the same height, drag along here. So this one then is sized 10,000 millimeters behind the vehicle. So let me get dimension, 10,000. Okay. And so same again. So what you do, no merge, and click up to that face there. So I'm going to do one now 15,000 behind this. So again, on the symmetry plane, grab the top there, dimension it 15,000. And again, like you can sort of come up with this as you want. So this is just something I know that works quite well for doing a hybrid LES simulation. So, and then the final one, then this is like your really far away wake thing, just to make sure, because the wake sometimes can be quite long depending on the vehicle. So that last one then is 25,000. And so these are, like um, if the vehicle is 5 meters long, so that's 5L, stuff like that. And you can see the domain goes out to there, so I haven't took up the whole domain. Grand, so just a little bit on the naming on this then, and then we're done. So you want to drag them maybe back in here. So that's called BOI wake fine. This is BOI wake med fine. That's BOI wake coarse and BOI wake very coarse. Label them up, drag them in there, and then once we have the SpaceClaim document done, you then go into Design Modeler just to adjust the names, make sure everything's a fluid. So I'll just do that now here. I'll pause this. Okay, so I said I'd add this step, but I had previously shown this before. So this is where you come in here and you select all the bodies and you make sure they're all fluid. So I duplicated the block in Workbench and then clicked Edit in Design Modeler. And so it'll be the Design Modeler version that I pump into the Fluent mesher. So the great thing about having them labeled previously in SpaceClaim is that you can sort of just delete away this, and then they have their names, they carry their names over rather than having to rename them. Grand, so when all this is done, so I don't know if I'll go and add on the bit here of me pushing this through the mesher, but I'll just talk about mesh sizes now, just so it covers things up. So that's up to you. You decide what you put these on depending on your computational resources. I know that very fine layer near the vehicle, that's 5 millimeters for me. I'll zoom in here. That very fine layer there is 5 millimeters. The one outside of it then is 10 millimeters. This then is 18 millimeters. Then the near course I do 26 millimeters. Then remember the big one outside, I do 42 millimeters there. Then the mirror, remember that extra mirror thing for behind your vehicle, I do that at about 12 millimeters just to capture what's going on behind the mirror. Then the wake, that very fine region, I keep that at 10 millimeters. Behind that then, wake med fine, that's 45 millimeters. The wake behind that then 65 millimeters, and then behind that then 90 millimeters. And then the boundary layer, that's grand, so that should mesh everything for you. And then the boundary layer that I grow on my vehicle here, so I keep all my kind of bulk face elements for the hybrid LES, keep them at 5 millimeters. And then I'll add the video where I push this through, and I do like a 16 layer boundary layer on this, but it'll be on a different vehicle, maybe the video, and some of the BOIs mightn't be here. But remember the sizing's there, and you should be good to work with that. Okay, thanks.